Standard Time. It's LinkedIn Live, Hour of Empower. I'm so happy to be here again. The key word today is wow, and that's what we're trying to make this show. I'm so honored to have a new special guest, Freeman Beals, and an old hand here who's just great, knows and loves her, is Rita Wirtz. And, I'm starting to see the growth and the benefit that this show is bringing. Oh, got your hat. Everybody's got a hat. This is the official Triple Crown in a different crown way, I guess.
Wow.
And I think what everybody has to appreciate is this is a great opportunity for people to connect with other people,
right,
learn from each other, share with each other, and on a daily basis, everybody can improve together and independently. And that's what will make this group stronger and better as it goes forward. Chat's open. We encourage you to use it. We depend on you to direct the conversation and where we can bring the most good. With that, I'll turn it over to Rita because you know Rita, and then we'll give Freeman a little bit more time just to introduce himself. And the focus again is on wow. Here we go. Just to mention Leslie here.
Hi, Leslie.
She was here last Saturday, knocked it out of the park. I mean, just big numbers, Leslie. So congratulations. Danny's here. Thanks for coming. Howdy from the UK. Dean, our wonderful gentleman with his potato, always here.
Omar.
Omar's here. Omar's going to be coming on the show. Leslie, see how it just rolls. So are we going to for our co-host? Well, I don't know. That's a good question. We'll have to think about that. Maybe the next one will be hat. We are strong up. Blessed morning from Olu. Thank you very much. Good morning. I'll just get as fast as I can through this. So she's here. Hats up, all.
Kelly.
Kelly's here. Great to see you. Kelly will be here tomorrow. Just a wonderful welcoming reception. So, Rita, why don't you share what your thoughts of wow and
Well, as we were working on our W's, Winning Wednesday, Wisdom Wednesday, Don got a great idea with wow. And we have someone here with us today who not only has the wow factor, but this guy has wow pertise. And so we're going to hear a little bit more from him on how we can cut down on our stress and change habits that aren't working for us. And more than ever, we're going to talk about wow. So, Freeman, let's go.
Well,
I love it.
Or Don?
Yeah, so Freeman, take it away.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Don. Thank you, Rita, and thank you all of you for showing up. That was hard this morning. Those of you who have commented, I was trying to put too many words in my mouth at once. It's great to see everybody here, and I'm already loving this so much. As you guys have said, today's wow, which is awesome. I love that term, that word. Right. And yeah, I'm just here doing what I can to help everybody kind of re-understand their relationship with stress, with their wow in their life as well. I'm really excited to get into. I feel like wow and fun kind of go hand in hand. And I think we need both of that more in life now than kind of we ever have. So I'm really excited.
Well, great. We're excited to have you. And we're excited for all of us to be together today. Yeah. And, we might be on the screen, but we're really sitting right next to you. And that's where we want to get as close to as we can. Right. Leslie says, thank you, Don, for the shout out for our live about legacy. That topic definitely generated interesting ideas and stories from everyone. Well, Leslie will be great. Week from Sunday. Look forward to seeing her. When I look at wow, I kind of look at it more as an exclamation. It's usually something to exclaim. You see something beautiful or something, a lightning in the sky or something, and it just, you say, wow, and maybe it makes time stand still at that moment, right? But you want more wows in your life. And they are out there right in front of you if you allow them to come through, right? Whether it's a walk in the park, there's plenty of wows, whether it's what you put on today, if you're excited by it, I guess the key is how many times can you use wow in different contexts and different ways. What's your thought on that, Freeman?
I love that you said it that way. One of my favorite quotes that I heard when I was really young that I still live by to this day is that life isn't measured by the breaths you take, but the moments that take your breath away. And I feel like that goes right to what you were saying there, Don, right? Where it's like, how do we find that wow in life? How do we live for experiences instead of living for things, which I think is something that we as society have gotten kind of caught into, right? We're very materialistic. We're always trying to get new things, where there's so much out there that supports the fact that we should be trying to get more experiences. That's what living life is about. It's about experiencing things, not attaining them.
Good point. And I think experiences are what you make, not what come to you, because
yes,
you're going to wait a while. Rita,
100%.
What's your thoughts?
I had a lot of thoughts since we started to look at wow, and I want to just keep readdressing this morning to Freeman. I have a lot to say, but you don't need to hear it. Freeman, what I want to know is, how do you stop the habits that we know are not benefiting us, so that we can absolutely go to the flow state, get in the zone?
That's a great question. When it comes to stopping habits, it's something that many people struggle with. The easiest thing to do to get rid of a habit you don't want is to stack it with a habit that you do want. So instead of trying to remove it entirely from your life, try to switch it to being something that is more beneficial to you. I'll give a quick example for people. A lot of us probably look at our phones before we go to sleep. It's a terrible habit. There's so many bad things about it. I don't need to get into it. It's not good. But we do it, right? It's a habit that we do. So switch that routine that you have at night. Instead of looking at your phone, write a journal or something like that, right? Give your brain something else to do in that habit time that's more beneficial. That's a great thing. And the other thing that I'm big on is just picking something that has not a lot of friction. So a lot of us try to get rid of a habit with something that's really good for us, right? We're going to go on a massive diet. That requires a lot of friction in our lives, and we're not going to keep doing it. So find something that's very frictionless and try to do that. That's a great way to start getting rid of old habits and building a new one for sure.
Sounds great. Let me just go back to the audience.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Harvey, what you're looking at there, the pop figurine that you see right there, he is. That's actually Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec, for those of you who watch. Looking after me there.
I would have never known it. Well, Dennis says, agree, cut down on our stress and mess. Dennis is great with those rhymes. Now, that's a good saying. You create the opportunities for wow moments by being in the moment. Good morning, friends. Kinga's great. We're going to have her on the show. Harvey will be here on Friday. Harvey's just great. If you don't know him, if you don't know him, you should get to know him. Leslie says, I need a laugh and a wow every day.
Wow.
Just help the world one wow at a time. Harvey says, good hands, everyone. Freeman Beals, love that quote. Dennis comes back with bow down and wow others. That's a
bow wow.
Rita and Freeman Beals, great to see you on the show, my friend. Grateful to be here and supporting. Paul's here every day. Always brings a ton of great constructive comments. Freeman loved a little pop figure. We just went through that. Parks and Rec for the ones who hear it. Here we go with Leslie. Leslie's here, just here. Had a great show with Andrea, so that was terrific. Thank you. I have a Roger Moore, aka James Bond. Paul says, all my wow moments started with courage, and what's interesting is you don't realize how impactful memories are until you reflect and look back. So anyways, caught up a little bit. Rita, any comments here that stick out to you? No, I think you're frozen. What's that?
I said a mindset.
I think you're frozen.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Have to say it again. I'll turn it to Freeman. So
yeah, Freeman, actually, I wanted to jump on a quote that Dennis said really early on there, where he.
That's better now, Rita. So I think you're okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, now take it while you're okay.
Oh. Well, I don't know if I'm okay now or not. In our community of belonging, as we get together every day, or parts of it, you might see in the morning or you might catch a part in the afternoon. There's always something that goes, aha, that epiphany, that catharsis you have. And as I worked on this, thinking about, wow, I kept going back to mindset. And I know that Freeman is big on mindset. So, Freeman, could you talk to us a little bit about how mindset fits in with our vision of what success might mean to us, and those things get in the way? How do we get rid of it?
Totally. This actually ties into just something that I wanted to chat about, which is a comment that Dennis made early on, where he was like, oh, we need to cut down on our stress. There's an interesting kind of thing happening in society right now where we're very sort of addicted to this idea of reducing our stress, where a really powerful thing happens actually if you embrace a mindset of what we call a stress positive mindset, which means that you understand that stress is simply a response our body has to an outward situation. And it's really the story we tell ourselves. And there's interesting studies and stuff. If you've ever looked into, Kelly McGonigal does some amazing stuff behind why stress is important to us and what it can do. If you can shift your mindset to being more positive, even when it relates to stress, you can actually begin to use that stress as fuel to achieve success, achieve the things you want to get out of life, instead of it being sort of a halting point and a buffer to your life. It can be used as fuel. I do want to say that, of course, you should work at reducing some stress in your life. I don't want to, I don't want to blanket sweep completely the one direction, right? But there is a small, like, stress can be a useful thing. And it's about reframing our mindset to being more accepting of how useful stress can be. And it's interesting, there's all kind of biological benefits to doing that I will get into if people want to, but I won't dive too deep into that rabbit hole right out the gate there.
What do you think, Don?
Well, that's pretty cool. I think, if you, again, we're looking at wow, and wow has a lot of energy to it, and stress has a lot of energy to it.
Yes.
Right.
So how you can redirect that energy, leverage it, it's only when you're out of balance. A stress-free life is a pretty boring life.
Yes.
Right? Because it's not where you are, it's where you hope to be. And wherever you're going is going to take more than probably what you have today, which means you're going to face new situations, new challenges. And that's going to be, if you consider it stressful versus harmful, right? There's a certain amount of stress that helps you. I mean, if you are confronted by something and all of a sudden the stress starts to fill up in you.
Yeah, right.
Does that make you better, more aware, more ready for something? And I think that's the key to every word is application, context, delivery. It's not a word. It's just three letters unless you can apply it to something. And I think, wow relates, I think, in the best case of happiness. You can use wow for unhappiness. Someone ran into your car when you were in the grocery store and you come out and say, wow, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Really is a surprising factor. I think that's what is the foundation to wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You think, how could
I keep saying wow now all the time.
If you win the lottery, it's like, wow. It's like, how could this ever happen? How lucky can I be? And on the opposite, you get hit by lightning or a piano falls from a window on you, and you think, wow, how unlucky today. But it is what it is, and it's all what you add to it for as long as you want to. Let's run through the comments before we forget about the reason we're here. All my wow moments started with courage. Interesting is to realize how impactful those memories are until you reflect and look back. And sometimes you end up looking back at wow moments you didn't think were wow at the time. It doesn't have to happen immediately. It could just be something that you just anticipate, and one day it shows up like, hey, did I get the job? And when you get it, you end up with that wow moment. Leslie just has a ton of emojis today. Courage, faith. Paul comes back with she's fine. Now there's a lag. Great. Everybody's looking out for Rita. Neurologically, Danny says, you cannot activate the courage circuit without first activating the fear circuit. You don't start with courage. You start with acknowledging the fear.
Yes.
Then
Danny.
Anyway, and that's why people seek out more and more challenging fears. I'll read the rest of it. Parachute, base jumper, wingsuit. He adds, a chief says, notice what nurtures you and tend to it. This helped me change some habits. Little things done right over time compound and spread to other things. And that's what you want to do, is start things in motion and write it down. Ask yourself, can I find 3 wow moments today? You know, and if that's your goal, and it doesn't take much to do it, all it does is to say, something just made me aware, you know, and based on that, it's a wow. And after a while, why not go to 6? It's no lifting, no different than weightlifting. Once you get enough going, add a little stress to it and challenge
all muscle. Yep.
Yes, Freeman. There's a great documentary series on Netflix called The Playbook. A coach's rules for life. In it, one coach talks about how pressure is a privilege. Jill Ellis, and for me personally, I use it to hold me accountable. You know, I love stress when you can manage it, you know? So I'm looking for as much energy, as much strength, and as much resistance that will take you beyond where you would have been if you didn't embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at the same time, you got to know when to let things go, right? When something gets too hot or too heavy, it's time to give it up, because it's the marathon you're in, not the sprint. Doc Rivers' section on this is particularly good. Danny says, Cindy's here because I have a hard time with Cynthia. A piano on you. Wow, that sucks. Yeah. You got to be able to say wow when something never happened to you. You know, how you're lucky not to have certain things. I've had people use the expression wow to describe their shock or disappointment by a comment. Yeah, you know, it's just how it's given, you know. And
well, then you're, wow.
Paul says, yes, Danny, I used to think courage was being fearless until I started training with elite mentors who told me it's about doing things scary. If your dreams don't scare you, they aren't big enough. Well, Danny, I'm not Danny. Freeman, why don't you, you're shaking your head to that in another comment. Why don't you address that one?
No, I think those are amazing. One of the that what Paul just said there reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, and I'm probably going to get it slightly wrong, but it's that it's scarier to have aimed too low and achieve it than to have aimed too high and never reached it. I got that a little bit wrong, but the idea is that you know, what's worse is that you would, you know, think that you can only achieve this and you actually attain that, then you think you can achieve this and you attain something much, much higher. And that, part of that is doing things scared, right? Which goes back to what you were saying, Dawn, about wow, about it being having that energy, right? Like it's about being energized. And to kind of tie that into what we've been talking about here, like excitement and anxiety have the same physiological responses in our body, which means if something is wowing us, that wow could be, depending on how we decide to interpret it, could be good or bad. But it completely depends on how we interpret the wow versus how we let our environment impact how we interpret that wow.
Yeah, I think along with that, one has to realize that it's a one day at a time opportunity. The reason why people get stressed out is they look too far beyond and it looks insurmountable. I mean, this is like 300 days every day, 7 days a week of doing one of these, but it was one day at a time, one show at a time. If someone would have said, you want to sign up for 300 days in a row, had the availability, let alone the motivation or intent. So, you know, I think if you just reduce stress by reduce the arena you're playing in, right? If you get too far ahead of yourself, you're taking too much of your time away from where you need to be, which is where you are. And then based on what you do today, that should change the picture tomorrow, let alone next week.
Yeah.
right? And that's another way of preserving your energy, because stress is good if you're strong, right? If you're confident, if you're courageous, then stress is like, bring it on. Let's get it over with.
Right.
Really, you created your own stress because you created your own play that you're starring in. Anytime you can change your role, you can change your costume, you can take a break. And it's getting yourself into the wow, which could equate in a lot of cases, if you talk to a lot of athletes, the zone, right? If you get into the zone, there was somebody who was a tennis player. There's an interesting book by George Plimpton, who wrote The Paper Lion a long time ago. But anyways, that person said when they get in the zone, it looks like that tennis ball is like a cantaloupe. It's
I've
so
heard that.
big that there's no way that they're going to miss it. So I think that's what you have to look at, is it may be building yourself on the words you use, but also how the words can use you to create a better you, by saying, hey, I don't have enough wows in my day. If you're creating a poem, you're going to figure out, being a wordsmith, what are the most compelling words. Anyways, we'll turn it over to Freeman right after we cover a couple comments. I think I'll log in and log out again. Rita, you're getting frozen.
That is the stream, Don. I'm getting messages that said they're having a problem with Restream, and they're working on it, whoever they is.
Okay, no problem, but just so you're aware, but I would sign in and sign out just because of that. So we'll go to Cynthia. I watch Freeman Beals. I watched people at my company in 2007 get laid off over and over. I took on their stress and my stress, worrying about when it would be me. The constant stress burned out my ability to deal with extreme stress on my own. I had let me just finish. I had a breakdown. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's great. And this is an important differentiator here. So there's two main types of stress in our life. We have our stress every day that happens to us, which can be interpreted as good or bad. When it becomes an issue is when we get into what we call chronic levels of stress. And a good sign, if stress has become chronic, it's usually impacting our sleep. That's a good warning sign that, hey, wait a minute, I need to get this stress under control. And it goes back to what you were talking about, which is talking about managing your levels of stress. For Cynthia here, when she's talking about this, people getting laid off, and you're in this environment that's suddenly very stressful, which kind of goes back into a comment that Danny said as well, where he says he'd like to challenge that stress is caused by the arena. If it was the arena, it would always be stressful at all times. It's about our view of that arena. So what I would say for Cynthia, it's about that view of that stressful situation she's in. So she's in this constant state of stress. What she needs to do is manage that stress. And the best way to do that, without getting into not knowing exactly how Cynthia does stuff, but a good way to do this is to write down what your worries are and put them in boxes of what you can control and what you can't control. So can you control who and when and what people are being laid off in? No, you can't really control that. That's sort of out of your control. So that out of control box, once you've written it down, you can do all sorts of interesting things. Some people scratch them out as saying, okay, I've acknowledged those things are out of my control. I can't help them. A really neat psychological and physical thing that you can do is write it down on a piece of paper, right? Out of things out of my control, write it down, take that piece of paper, crunch it up into your hands, and literally let it go. This signals your brain, this stuff is out of my control. I'm letting it go. So you change that story of what you're telling yourself about the situation and saying, that's not in my control. I'm not going to worry about it. That would be just a quick tip that I would say for people who are in those types of situations where a lot of stuff is out of your control.
How do you think that? Oh, I'm sorry, Don.
No, go ahead, Rita.
Oh, I was just going to have you go a little further. How do we bring more wow into our lives?
Yeah, this is good. And it actually, weirdly enough, Dawn, you mentioned something earlier on that was a huge tip of mine that I tell people to do. You said people should write down just 3 things that bring them wow. So one of my biggest things that I tell people, everybody, if there was a silver bullet to reducing the amount of stress in your life, it would be this. Write down 3 positive things every day. That's it. That's all it takes. Write down 3 things that went well. What begins to happen is you begin to rewire the neurological connection in your brain that notices positive things happening in your environment, which means you will notice them more. One of my favorite studies did this with a group of people. They had some of them write down 3 positive things, and a control group who obviously didn't write down 3 positive things. I think they wrote down 3 neutral things or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But the group that wrote down the positive things for a week, they only did it for a week, showed better signs of health, both physically and mentally, and less signs of illness for that week, for a month later, for 2 months later, and up to 6 months later. And they only did it for a week. So it's really, really powerful, and it's really easy to do. And that's a great way to notice more wow and more positive in your life.
So we know that stress is releasing cortisol, or I believe we know that. So if we approach wow more, are we also endorphins? So and dopamine just from that.
Yes, totally. And interestingly, cortisol isn't necessarily a bad thing. When it's balanced with things like dopamine and serotonin and stuff like that. Cortisol is what your brain uses to actually build better function. So cortisol is a good thing in that sense. It's actually repairs cells. And yeah, totally. If you can change your perspective to be more wow and being more amazed by things, then yeah, you're going to get more serotonin, more dopamine release in your body with that cortisol. I'm just seeing if there's any comments here that I can play in off of that. But
well, that's great. I think that, the more we share, the more we communicate our thoughts, our feelings about certain things, that alone is a therapeutic exercise.
Yes.
And I do believe when you write something down, you make a commitment of energy and action, and it's physical, it's visible, it can be touched, it can be held, it could be stored. And, there was, I think it was Brian Tracy, who was a big fan of first of the year, write down the 10 things you want to accomplish this year and put it in the drawer and don't look at it for a year. Typically, just from the exercise of starting the first year, the first day of the year like that, and really not even being conscious, but being subconscious of what you committed to. And he found out 70 to 80% of things would happen. And that's a pretty good number. Sheaf is here. He says, aim for the moon. If you miss it, you might hit a star. And I think optimism is a wow factor. Did you ever say to yourself, I am so happy I'm bursting at the seams? Wow. So whenever you fill up and overfill, that's where the wow comes in, from the cool to now wow, and if you can continue to shape and optimize your superlatives that you apply to your accomplishments. Some people just making a great omelet is a wow.
It should be a wow. Yeah. Make that omelet a wow time. Yeah.
A good cup of, a hot chocolate that, really hits the spot. Everything you could make wow, if you give it room, if you give it time, if you give it thought. That's what they call creating signature pieces, right? Something that's personalized just for you, by you, for you. It's a way of spoiling yourself when it's been a long time since anybody spoiled you, and to keep that energy going, I think it's vital. Here's Linda. Linda's always great with her comments. One big wow for a cousin, as many others as a big wow. All showed up to work and told clean out desk, locker, company closing, as others have been through personal wows. One ending is another new beginning.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
And that's the wow factor, is I am free now to be open to whatever the universe has for me as me now. When you lost something, it was something you found time before when you were different, needs were different. Someone frees you up, they're doing you a bigger favor because you probably wouldn't have done it for yourself.
Exactly.
Now it's what do you do with your freedom? How do you redirect it to yourself? Harvey says, wow, that takes home for me. Write down 3 positive things every day. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, everybody can create more and more exercises that are more constructive, more positive, more motivating themselves, and replace the other ones. That's all the difference. Linda says, hi, Cindy. Now we got Dr. Constance. Dr. Constance, one of the best, has been on the show a couple times. Can't wait to have her back. Danny's here. There's a fabulous study that showed that those that keep gratitude diaries also societal, well, you know what I mean. They put out their neighbor's garbage more. They volunteered more time to share. They built deeper relationships in their community. Here we go.
Deeper relationships.
Wow, mantras, hack the happy chemicals. Here's yes, vision boarding with manifestation works, Dr. Constance says. I have experienced it last year that I had to share it to my community. I mean, these are proven techniques that people are not just talking about, but are using and getting results from. And if you're not, why not try what is working? And you can always go back to what's not working. You know, it's easy to do. It doesn't work. You can do anything that doesn't work. How about scrambled eggs? I had to actually go into detail, but it was something new I did this morning with them that I don't want to share. I'll keep my eggs to myself. Hello, Dr. Always great to see you. Dean, as a salesman, I love my job cause when I could show a customer that aha moment. The look at their eyes is what I live for. And that's so key, Dean, because it's the wows you create, not only for yourself. But why not share a wow moment? Can you 2, 3 people at the same time have a wow? You know,
we're having a wow right now.
Well, that's important.
I'm in a wow right now.
Well, and hopefully everybody does, and we'll create more wows. Here's Dr.
How does gratitude fit in? Don, I wanted to get this because before we got way off of there. Freeman, could you go back and then we'll take more friends' comments? How does gratitude tie in with the wow?
I mean, I would say it ties in directly with the wow, because having gratitude for anything, even if it's just scrambled eggs in the morning, really is what brings, and Dawn mentioned this a couple of times, gratitude is what brings that space to find the wow.
There we go.
If you don't give that space for gratitude, you're not going to have that time to find that wow, right? Because you're just going to glaze over a potentially big moment in life, right? And I encourage people to take gratitude into everything. So don't just find gratitude into the big things in life, like, oh, I got this new job, I'm very grateful for that. But you can find gratitude in all types of things. Find gratitude in the fact that, you know, the sun was shining when you woke up this morning, or honestly, it's pouring rain where I am, but I'm grateful for the rain because right now we need the rain. Right. We've had a dry spell for like a month and there's wildfires, and I know I'm very grateful for the rain. And so I'm able to find wow in that. Now I could tell myself a different story and say, oh, it's raining, it's miserable, I can't go for a walk today. But that story doesn't do me any good. So the story that I'll tell myself instead is that this is important. We need it. And wow, I'm so glad it's raining.
Dr. Don.
Yeah, I think, you know, the more I hear what you say, Freeman, is the sustainability of a wow.
There we go.
And you keep the wow with you. You know, it may not be as strong as the first initial impact that it might have, but all of a sudden it's more of a top of mind awareness situation. And, you know, a lot of people turn to things when things aren't where they want them to be. And the key is what do you turn to that is going to be sustainable and positive and constructive? Because it's so easy to numb out and find wow moments in the numb. But when that disappears, you're back to where you were back. And the thought is how do you change unhealthy routines with healthy routines? And, you know, happiness takes a lot of work. People think it's just a result of of going through it. You're happy. It takes more effort to be happy than to be sad, because there's so much around you that will motivate your sadness if you let it. Watch the news for a day or two, and you know what it is? It's the same thing multiplied over and over again. The news doesn't change that fast, but the commentary never ends. The judgment never quits. The social media never stops amplifying it. So you almost got to find an island in the sun, and that's hopefully what the community is to get away from salesy, scammy, unpersonalized, whatever it is that will turn you lower on LinkedIn, because you're dealing with that filtering all the time. Who is this? What do they want? Why do they want? And plus, most of that stuff is disrespectful. Just in the offer, whatever's in that offer is you just connected. Here's 8 things I want to do. I'm looking for people just like you. I mean, it's all that stuff. And it's like,
that's definitely a negative wow when that comes through my thing. I'm like, wow, you just sent that message?
This just happened 5 times to me. Boy, wow with that. And maybe wow with that is that wow is attached to something you don't want to own the wow to. So you're dealing with good wows and bad wows, and wows that scare you and wows that excite you. But you got a buffet of wow moments. What if people became minimalist and their key direction in life was just to generate more wow for them and everybody around them, right?
And to share.
I mean, where they're not really
widely, right?
Accommodating or sacrificing, or hey, I got to work for this person to get something for me. What did I need that for? And maybe I don't need that person I had to work for, and maybe I go to work for myself. Rita, you're coming in loud and clear. Let's use this opportunity.
Oh, I am. Yay. Tech issues are part of our life now. I didn't stress out. I'm like, you two would have just gone on. I had a comment. One of the things that I wrote down from Freeman that you said are wow moments only for Hollywood. And that really struck me as an interesting thing, because every day I see in the news, this only news I would look at is like the TMZ kind of news, but why are people that are in Hollywood that have everything, millions and millions of dollars and mansions and all, they're on their cruises, and I go, I'm going to Weimar today for my excitement. But my question is, why do we think that people in Hollywood, since you said it, have more wow? And how do we come into, let's go back. Warren Buffett said we always should surround ourselves with positive people and people that make a difference for us. So how does wow come into that, and the notion of charisma and bringing the wow into a team setting to help the culture? So Hollywood doesn't even work for me, because I don't see all that many people that look all that happy on a regular basis. Some, yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that you've kind of struck the chord there really well, Rita. I'm gonna have to go back to like the story that you tell yourself, right? So in Hollywood, everybody in Hollywood has a different story that they're telling themselves of what their levels of success and their opportunities look like, compared to somebody else who, that story looks a lot different. So in Hollywood, buying the Lamborghini in the 15-room house, that's considered a standard almost in some senses, but it's much harder to achieve, right? So you've kind of moved your goalpost quite high, and it's hard to get to it. Whereas for a lot of us, sometimes just, having a vehicle that runs properly is
that's
enough,
a wow,
right? That's wow. Holy cow, I've had my vehicle for 2 years and I've only got the oil changed on it. Wow. Right? Not, I just bought a 15-room mansion in Beverly Hills.
Right.
So again, it comes back to perspective, right? And it's having the right perspective. And I think that's part of the reason it's happening in Hollywood is the perspective is all wrong. You're looking for the wrong things. You're prioritizing, unhealthy habits and things that are essentially unachievable and not deemed to be, that don't need to be achieved, which goes back to that thing that I mentioned way at the beginning of this, which is like, if those people in Hollywood spent their money on experiences versus trying to look like they're achieving well, and they just go out and actually enjoy themselves, they're going to be much happier. right? I know that like
Mhm.
Matthew McConaughey, who's one of my very much one of my idols,
Right.
lived in like an Airstream and drove around the country for much of his acting career with his dog. Because that's what that was the experiences that he wanted. He didn't need the big house, and not many people do. If you want to chase riches, that's fine. I think that's okay too. I don't want to say don't, but make sure that's actually what you want, and you're not just doing it to validate what other people want to see you do.
Well, you know, I
That's
think
important.
that you know, if you look at everything, the reason why it is because those people are in the short-term gain and probably long-term pain. You know, and you know, it's a fast life, it's a fast career. One movie you're up, the next movie you're
Right.
I mean, same thing with elite athletes. They only play 3-4 years, maybe make a lot of money. But how do you go from nothing to something and not have what made you something anymore? Where's purpose? And I think purpose has a lot to play with. Wow. But let's jump back into the people.
There's some great comments in here.
Yeah, this is a game when you say wow.
I hope you mean drinking water, Cynthia. Water, right? Let me just clarify here.
The question from Cynthia was interesting. I lived in California for a long time, and a lot of the wow factor is fake. Just what you were saying.
100%.
Yeah, and here's Dean that says, grateful for bad that cause when never know where that leads me to X. If not for my disability, I'd never even gotten back on this platform. And you know, some things come with a mixed message. It's not an absolute. Some wows still come with a little imperfection. Matt Allen, so glad to see. I'm grateful for the wow that is this show, this community, this family. Rita Freeman, Donald, us all. Thank you so much. Look forward to having you on the show sometime, Matt. My latest wow moment I had was yesterday. I got to meet Rachel Joy, real name Baraboo.
Rachel's great.
She said the biggest lie is I'm not there enough to help someone else. I realize there will always be someone ahead, behind of you in life, so it's important. Again, if it's a one step at a time, one day at a time,
right.
You're not going to climb the mountain overnight, but you should enjoy the journey more than the destination or as much.
Step by step.
Dr. Compton says, I'm grateful for even losing someone who I thought was a friend because I sought a lesson learned on what I should and should not do. Sometimes you have to be grateful for things that are not even a good thing because there is always something positive.
That's right.
Positive you can learn from it. And I think that's so empowering, Dr. Constance, because wows can be learning opportunities and experiences. Because if you get a huge upside wow, you're going to start thinking, how did I get that done? I want to replicate that, and that's a way to learn to figure it out. And then the same thing. I just lost all this money depending on this. I'm going to learn not to do that again. It may not be worth it at the time, but you know, it's always easier or better to learn fast and early, you know, than late. So, you know, at least it tells you, you know, move on or stay. You're constantly on the search for wow. When you meet somebody, ask yourself, can they ever create a wow moment for me? Is there the possibility we can experience wow together? And that would be a qualifier based on their attitude, right? If someone just got their head down and they're mumbling something that's not very positive, it's not very attractive, right? But if everybody says, hey, isn't this great? We're having a ball. You know, you're wondering what it's all about. But you know, you get into it because they see something you haven't. They're responding faster to something that you haven't. And maybe they're the person you want to run with because you want to run with people faster than yourself because it makes you go faster. And I think that's where some of that positive stress comes from. Danny says, I haven't watched the news in 2 years and it's been fabulous. It's good you stayed with the old news. The last 2 years hasn't gotten any better, so you haven't missed on the news. It's just
I haven't watched the news in years either, Danny. I'm right there with you, brother.
I don't watch the news either.
There's so many quality books.
Right.
There's so many quality programs. There's so many quality documentaries. And
there's so much stuff I could do with my time that isn't watching toxic news.
Yeah, I mean, if you went to a buffet, would you take the fresh macaroni and cheese or the stuff that's 3 days old? And that's what news gives you is stuff that doesn't nourish you and actually takes you out of where you want to be. Today I chose joy while created. Matt says smorgasbord of wow for sure. And it
right.
Be grateful for the wow moments. If you're setting a buffet for yourself, lay it out. I mean, why not treat yourself like a VIP? I lived in California a long time. Paul says,
that was good.
Great question, Rita. I believe it's because many people have had their reality dream life shaped by technology.
Yeah, 100%.
And the facade
100%
what success looks like. But that's the key, Paul, because it's not what it looks like, is what it does to you.
Yeah.
And that's people buy into the cover and not the book, and get the short-term energy spark, but it doesn't sustain, and it doesn't feed your soul, and it doesn't help you become more courageous, more confident, more outgoing. It's action. Matt says, okay, everybody knows each other. Let's see if there's a meaty comment here. Gaining is not a wow. Giving is the greatest wow. Well, you can combine the two. Sometimes you get a scoop of this and a scoop of that. Now you got two. Why settle for one? The sincere joy and pleasure in another person's accomplishment and experiences.
Yes.
You need more of that. And you know what? That's so cool.
That's right.
Danny, because when you can enjoy it, can you share the enjoyment with someone else who's going through it? If you're with somebody and he's lucky and they hit a big jackpot in a casino, you'll be jumping just as high as 100%. They are, slapping high fives.
100% on that one.
Celebrate this. In a lot of ways, it's less stress for you. There's people who can't take winning. I mean, they got to learn to breathe for a while. Matt Allen True, though we must all learn when to stop giving, as takers never learn when to stop taking. Well, it's all orientation to a point. Freeman
100%.
And I are from the same small East Texas town. Wow. So
all right, Dean, you got to introduce me, Dean. So you just if you want to mutually introduce me and Matthew, that'd be great. I appreciate it.
Well, I can tell you with Dean that the town is so small that all they have is a munitions plant and an army depot, and that's it. And if you're in that town, you're either working there or you're supporting people who are working there.
Wow.
We should, but give the takers a way to give. That is the miracle. So right, Matt. And I think opportunity is what we're all looking for. Why not open it up to others? Let them open it up to you. Let the floodgates come through. It's always better to have a tailwind than a head. Matt comes back. Matt's getting prodigious. Yes, Rita, go ahead.
Okay. I would like to share with you, Don, something that Freeman also said to me as we were putting the show together. And that struck me. Do we wait for wow to find us? Or you said something like, or do we go out and create that wow and bring it to others? Now that I'm kind of paraphrasing what you wrote to me, but that's pretty close. What do you think? And then Don, what do you think? Do we wait or do we go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such an important thing, right? Is you have to go out and create that wow. You can't wait until it happens. Go out, find it, create it. Like kind of anything in life, it doesn't work well if you just sit and wait for things to happen, right? You have to go out and get them. And I think wow is part of that, right? And I don't mean that you have to go and start parachuting or learn to skydive. You don't need that to go and make the wow. It can be easier, right? Have dinner with your family, talk about what went well that day. Find the wow in that conversation with your family. Find the wow in the chicken that you made. Don't make it complicated. I always tell people, don't try to do it perfectly. Don't try to do it at 100%. Just find little bits of wow in your day. Definitely don't wait for them because you'll get real bored.
I
Well,
love that, Freeman.
what I'm already thinking about, and I'm sincere, is my next now wow moments, because I've already looked outside. It's like 70 and sunny. I'm going to the park right after this, pretty much. And I'm going to look at everything that I love in that park. The dogs I see every day, the birds, the lake, the fountains, and that's when you get the real wow, is when you not only create it, but build towards that anticipation of seeing it. Because, packaging and presentation are so important to everything you do. Right? You can look at something, somebody's junk is somebody's treasure, they say, and it's all how you embrace it, and it's all how aligned you are with it. When people say, I don't have time for that stuff, well, they're into stuff that's not very aligning, because if you don't have time for yourself, if you don't have time for nature, if you don't have time for art or any music, food, you name it. It's whatever you do every day. You do so many things that you take for granted. Not only do you take it for granted, you rush through it. You're thinking, how can I brush my teeth faster so I can get out of here? I hope the light doesn't turn red. It's going to take me 2 more minutes. Those kind of dumb things that if you would have said, and I was so fortunate to have mentors and strategic partners who were so smart by being so simple. Like Brian Tracy tell me, the night before a speech, he would have all his clothes laid out. That's one thing he never had to deal with, right? I got that covered in advance. Somebody else who was significant said, I always get to the airport an hour early, just so I don't rush, just so I'm not stressing.
Yeah, that's me. I do that.
I get I settle in versus rushing and all that other stuff. So let's go to the comments again.
Can I jump on this comment from Dean quick, actually? Because I think this is interesting. Because he says here, the wow is similar as finding your joy, never letting someone take your joy. I would say that joy is abundant. So I would say, let people take your joy. Give your joy away and then find more. Like, don't feel like you're going to run out of joy. If somebody needs your joy, give it to them, and then find more joy. Don't hold back your joy from somebody else. So instead of thinking somebody's taking my joy from me, again, reframe that. You're giving that joy to somebody else, and that in turn, honestly, will probably bring you joy back.
Well, it'll multiply
powerful comment
joy that you generate, and just like an energy generates it. And here's the thing. Aren't you happy when you bought something and now you get to use it more than you think?
Exactly.
For one use, and it just kept coming through, and you just said, wow, this is great. Or you took home so much food that you couldn't eat, and you come home and everybody can't wait to eat it. And now you repurpose something, a wow, into more wow. So let's see. Let's just cover a couple more. We'll turn it back to Rita. Bye, everyone. Got to go to get ready for my show. Dr. Constance has a show.
It's a wow.
Yeah, and the people here are here because they want to be here. Everybody has something they could have done and they used to do with their time. And I think what we're saying is review, optimize, and redirect and repurpose what isn't working. So, if it's wow, if you got 3 wows you want to do, if it's service, 3 service things you want to do. It all comes down to what do you want to do? And that's where you start. And then you find out how much resources and time do I have? Whoops, I don't have that much. Well, what's going to go? Right? And it's like, I don't even like doing what I used to do during this time. But it's easy because it's routine. It's comfortable because there's no surprises. And people end up living quiet lives of desperation, and they become in their own secret witness program. So I'm going to wrap it up. Cindy says, I have to ask because I said to my husband, wow, he had a pop behind him. Which pop is it?
Yeah, it's again, Cynthia, it's the Oh man, it's a Ron Swanson pop from Parks and Rec, which is what got me and my wife through COVID was binge watching Parks and Rec.
And now a new baby.
Yeah,
That's a wow.
it's a wow every morning, 100%.
Well, and you know what used to be just simple moments are now wow miracle moments, and there's no reason not to give yourself more applause sometimes than maybe you're used to, you know. And you know the other thing is when you're living in the wow, people around you benefit from seeing you in the wow.
Right.
Yes.
Aren't you always happier when you see your most important individuals, kids, spouses, partners, whatever, who are just celebrating so much joy and success? And it's like, hey, this is better than anything that could have happened to me because it's already happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you could see it in your kids or your grandkids or whoever is important to you and say, I couldn't be happier to see the wow that's taking place with you. And all of a sudden you're introducing wow to the person because maybe they never identified what they're feeling as
So
wow.
we're modeling. You're talking about modeling.
Well, modeling and recognizing
too.
You know, someone says that was great. You can say, you know, to a kid, that wasn't just great. That was heroic. That was monumental. And you know what happens? All of a sudden those labels stick. Just like if you told a kid, well, it was good, but you could do a lot better. You got to start working harder. You know, that's almost a slap in the face. You know, just talk about what we just achieved, not what we're yet to achieve.
Yes.
I think that's perspective. And at the end of the day, you rate yourself, right? You say to yourself, boy, I had a wonderful day. I can't wait for tomorrow. Or I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed. And you know, who's talking to who? Right. And if someone walked into your life and just starts spitting that out to you, you would start walking away or tell them to leave.
Yeah.
Right? So why don't you do that to the person you have the only control over?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why if you find wow within yourself, you'll find it. If you wait for someone to provide it, you're going to wait a longer time. So do you want to go in a fast lane or do you want to take a number? And when it comes, because it comes so infrequently, you're almost going to think, well, it's flash in the pan. I'm back to drudgery tomorrow. So let's get well, here's a big comment from Matt. It says, speaking of resources and time, meeting calls, stay safe, be well, be your miracle. Pleasure to have been here. Thank you so much for coming. Everybody brings a little piece to the wow puzzle that when we're finished at the end of the hour, we manufacture and distribute tons of wows and abilities to identify a wow that maybe went unrecognized. Cindy says, no bigger wow than holding your baby for the first time. You know, and that is a miracle. I've experienced Danny Wormbahaha. I haven't. Anyway, that said, what's your thoughts wrapping this up? Freeman, it's first time for you. What are you thinking now that you weren't thinking when you started?
That's a great question, Don. I think that the big thing maybe that I've kind of gathered here, seeing these comments, seeing everybody interacting and stuff like that, is just how much kind of wow we can find in the communities that we're part of and putting ourselves into those communities. And I think the community that you guys are creating here is part of that. And if you need more wow or you need more kind of anything, go to the communities that you're part of and find it there. Ask for help, reach out to people. I think that's kind of what's a big takeaway for me.
Perfect advice and great insight. Rita, another wonderful show together. The wow work as a key word.
I've just had a great time just listening to you two and everybody and all the comments. Going back to where we started, one thing that really struck me that I wrote down, Freeman, was about changing our own narrative, that we need to change our story. For example, if we're future pacing and we're seeing ourselves with some level of success in some area of our life, then it seems like it only makes sense that we need to also be able to change our own narrative. So before we go, could you just 1 second on that? Because that was really powerful when you had said that to me.
Yeah, I'll quickly touch on that because I think it is very important. I'm glad you brought it up right here at the end. I think if people can take away from that is like, let's when you're looking at things in life, make sure you're always trying to reframe them to be in a positive light. Look for the silver lining, look for the good things, including with your stress, right? What is the stress enabling me to do? Not what is the stress causing me to not do, right? And that mental reframe, I cannot stress how important that is. I just use the word stress in a weird way there, but yeah.
The best thing that happens today is awareness, recognition, how one needs to balance their day into creating more positive opportunities, recognize the wow moments, create more wow moments, and then see how your life changes when your mindset, your attitude, and your expectation and optimism towards the future, because now you really have unlimited opportunities. The only ceiling you have is the one you build above yourself, right? And you can just decide, is it impossible to live a life of wow, if you don't give things too much credit that you used to and start identifying and crediting things that you didn't, and be the model? Because on social media, everything duplicates, everything transfers, everything ripples. What are you sending out to your people, and why are you sending it? I see so many people doing posts, doing videos, and the question is not wow, but why? What are they sharing? I got hit by a bus yesterday, I might be okay. Well, that's not going to get anybody to be attracted to you. But if I got hit by a bus and I just got into the Olympics after 6 years of therapy,
that's right.
Cool. But here's another thing that I know you can create wow moments for other people, is find out what's really important to them, what makes them tick, and then share that you've just seen it in them. They've just...
We're talking about intention too. We're really observing with intention. We're listening with intention, and also asking that second question. That second question is the one that will be the most revealing. And when we ask that second question and we hear what we are going to hear, our reaction to it will either make or break somebody's day. And so I choose now to be happy, and I choose to pause, to reflect. That was a growth area for me, is take a breath and just kind of wait and see how things fall out. But my whole goal every day is to bring wow to others, and it makes me feel good. I just feel so much better, and I know we get back way more than we give. I think everybody here would probably agree, in this community of belonging here.
Well, I think with the wow, it's not just aspirational,
right?
It's actually getting a practice of it. And once you get a practice of it, it's easy to maintain, right? You might decide, hey, tomorrow's strawberries instead of blueberries. And take a minute to look at your strawberry. And that's why I said, who grew it? Who trucked it? Who transferred it? How did you get this thing that you did nothing for, except exchange something that is questionable to begin with? So it's all about finding the beauty, finding the value, right? It's there. They say nothing's been invented, it's only been discovered, right? It was always there to begin with. Just a few more comments. We're going to, wow, that's just a wow hour. I like how we end up. It's not a mindset, Danny said. There's nothing.
I love this. That's so good.
It's take control and change what you like. Harvey has a good one. Well, first, I like that. It's the hour.
The hour of wow power.
Hour, and then come back. Love that. Find out what someone's wow is, and that is very transferable. I mean, isn't it
right
when you can bring somebody's attention to themselves for some things they're doing so well, and they don't even know it because no one's taken the time to congratulate them or to compliment them. I mean, how much does it take sincerely to find something that gets your attention from somebody? It could be someone's hat, it could be someone's whatever, but it's nice because you can measure in yourself how many people come up to you and do something gracious every day. or sincerely honor you and compliment you in a way that, boy, that touches me. Not often, but you like it when it happens. But then come back to how many times are you making it happen, right? If you can't be the receiver, can you be the circulator? Because everything will come around, and that's people's reputation. Some people like to be around people they like. They like to be around people that make them happier for the time. It's not always transactional. Some people always put things in monetary or materialistic ways. There's people with so much money that giving you some is like a drop in the ocean, but receiving it is a life preserver.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people have to figure is, when they find out they got too much and they want to replace it with something better, recycle it. Even something that works is better than nothing. So with that said, we can get on to more topics. I really want to thank Rita so much. Rita was the stimulus for really bringing Freeman on today and helping with the subject, and did a great promotional.
He has expertise, Don. That's what I told him. He has wow.
Well, that's great. Well, everybody's going to start replacing every word with a wow, and then they're going to blame us when the dictionary only has like 10 words. So with that said, take care. Come back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Kelly's day, and we've got Dan Portick, who is really great, does a lot of podcasting. So see y'all then. Stay well. Create a lot of wow.